Hello, Internet people. So somebody sent me this interesting article about space in design, and I was going to read it. So I might as well read it with you guys. So here it is. It's on medium.com. So this is from Nathan Curtis, founder of the UX firm 8Shapes. Speaker, writer, etc. Okay. So, looking at this graphic, what's going on in this graphic? Oh, let me get out of the way. Anyway, so they've broken down this design into its component parts and then highlighted the spaces in it. Interesting. Space in design systems. From basics to expanded concepts to apply space with intent. From basics to expanded concepts. Okay. I've long referred to color, type, and icons as the big three of a system's visual language. All UI components, from buttons on up, are built with them. But I left something out. Space! Our final frontier. Space rivals color. Space is everywhere. CSS uses properties like padding, margin, and absolute positionings left, right, top, and bottom. It's actually TRBL, top, right, bottom, left, to separate objects across 5 libraries: Bootstrap, Salesforce, Lightning, Foundation, a previous project, and current project. I compared occurrence of these space properties relative to property groups of color, size, type, layout, and more. Okay. So I think what he's talking about is, okay, current project is purple, past project is green, Foundation, Bootstrap, Sales. Okay, so Bootstrap. I've used Bootstrap. That's in red. So red. So CSS property groups. Color is the biggest one. So color is used a lot. Lots of color. And then space, and then size, and then type, and then radius, layout, animation, transform, shadow, layering, display, content, interaction, other. So if you combine space, size, and radius, and layout, that's all talking about space in one way or another. Color and type are, important too, obviously. Space rivals color in frequency of use within a library's style rules. After removing effects, zeroed values like 0, and reserved terms like transparent or auto, where CSS already offers a system for decisions, space rules appear more than anything except color. Nothing else, not type, size, layout, was even close. There's so much spatial complexity built into our libraries, let alone our products. Space divides us. Space epitomizes the I design this way, you build that way gap between design and development. We've long lamented the red line spec sprinkled over our designs. It never feels worth it, yet they persist, uninformed by our product's finished material, HTML's box model. Okay, don't do this, do this. Is that what he's trying to say? Okay, objects in design art, spaced for sloppy convenience. Objects arranged with HTML's box model in mind. Objects spaced using system concepts and size options. Costs are huge. Annotating, translating, discussing, visually scrubbing during QA, all that work for something still not good enough. Thus, space exacts an emotional toll, too. Interesting. Space concepts are primitive. We could weave more intentional spatial concepts through design, code, and conversation, but we don't. We just use t-shirt sizes and call it a day. We can do better. We can replace redlined, red-faced rage to inset, squish, stretch, and stack our way towards a future of spatial clarity. With that in mind, Here's fundamentals, an expanded vocabulary, and further experiences I've had when applying space to systems work. Space fundamentals. Grid not equal space. Grid is a component using space. Grids are rich with spatial decisions for columns, gutters, outer margins, and responsive nuance. Teams tackle grids early so users can easily make a page. And by users, I think he means the users of a design system. In other words, designers. Or developers, I guess. Unfortunately, that's often when spatial conversations stop. What do we got here? Okay. Grid conventions for margin, blue, and gutter, lime green. A grid isn't a complete spatial system. A grid is a component that uses space, just like every other component. A grid feels different. It's invisible, comes early, and only does space. But there's more to space than grid. Takeaway: introduce spatial conventions with a grid, but don't stop there. Align a grid's margins, gutters, and column values with deeper spatial concepts woven through an entire component library. Set a memorable base number and expectations. Teams set up a memorable, even magical base number to ground all other spatial values. Some teams prefer base 10 because of how we count, due to our 10 fingers, by the way. I've even seen a team use base 6 with helpful factors of 2 and 3 to make way for an uber flexible array of 3s, 4s, 6s, 8s, 9s, etc., etc. Stop the madness! A set of spacing options based on 6, but supplying any multiples of 3s and 2s. Really? Are these options? Most systems I've worked use 16. It's a good default font size. It's a factor of all screen resolutions, 320, 768, 1024, and it provides memorable multiples greater, 32, 64, and factors less, 8, 4, 2, and then where it starts. So 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, the standard thing you see everywhere. A set of more limited spatial options based on 16. Takeaway: ground your spatial systems range with a memorable base number and limit expectations on how it's used. Scale options non-linearly. With an established base, teams can still slip into random steps, 12, 14, 18, 20, etc. To prevent that, others use a linear scale, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, etc., etc., where each step is a fixed increment. To me, either result is unpredictably used, offering too many choices too close together. When do I use 24 or 28? I don't know. Smooth. Linear progression from 4 to 16. Really, you need all these options? An alternative is nonlinear. Options include the golden ratio, modular scale, or the similar geometric progression that could double each step. Starting from the base, we'll go in both directions to stop smaller. 16, 8, 4, 2, and larger. 16, 32, 64, and that's about it on the scale. Geometric progression, doubling each step. Percentages represent proportional use in our library. Okay. Proportional use in our library. Now, this is interesting. So, 41% of their sizing uses 16, and then a quarter use 8 and 32, and these other ones are less commonly used, and 2 isn't used at all. So why is it even there? Takeaway: consider a geometric progression or something similarly nonlinear. You might experience occasional tension to add a 24 between 16 and 32. However, in my experience, such moments are rare and rarely justify breaking the simple system. Name each step for memorable, accurate reuse. I love Gmail's compact, cozy, comfortable space toggle. So when we built our space system, I suggested we use those labels in our work. Immediately, a teammate challenged me, "What do we call the other steps?" My Spartan, teeny, and luxurious options didn't pass muster. Spartan, 2. Teeny, 4. Compact, cozy, comfortable, luxurious. A descriptive label for each stop. Be careful. So we did what we always do. Use a t-shirt size scale. Medium corresponds to default, and S, XS, L, XL, and if necessary, double XS and double XL are other options. It's what most libraries, Bootstrap, Lightning, etc. do. So if it's what most libraries do, we should do that. Takeaway. Name space options simply, using a scale like t-shirt sizes to create a language people can remember and apply accurately. If you try more descriptive labels, be prepared for teammates to respond, small, medium, large, please. I've reviewed many libraries and talked with many designers. Simple conventions of base numbers in a named scale are where conventions usually end. Even though these few options are simple, using space still felt so random. I needed more. Extending a vocabulary for space. In reviewing our emerging work, there aren't many distinct intents for applying space. For example, let's inspect my favorite component, the card. The card. As a front-end developer, I envision all the boxes of elements that fit elements together. This is how we see the world. The card provides a useful illustration of many spatial concepts we use. Insetting content from an edge, varying an inset's shape, spacing items in line, and stacking items within and between a component. Inset. Stack. Inline. Squished. Squished inset. Alright, squished inset. That's a fun name. These concepts, inset, inset squish, inset stretch, stack, inline, and grid, cover the vast majority of our library's CSS rules for space. Padding, margin, left, right, top, and bottom. These concepts also enhance how each atomic is self-contained, improving composability. Ooh, here's a link. Ooh, it's Wikipedia. Concept 1, square inset. An inset offers indents an inset offers indents contents on all four sides, like the mat of a frame photo on a wall. Its use is widespread across many components at varying sizes, whether a 3up module and block messages, medium feel. Man, why is this so hard to read? Extra compact pills or spacious footers and mastheads. Basically he's saying there's a thing that defines the space around a thing. We call that an inset. Okay. Look how big it is here. Look how little it is here. Look how teeny it is here. Etc. The default is also a useful starting point for mobile-first design, expanding to large at a relevant viewport width, like 768. Narrow. Narrow and wide, yes. If you bigify, it gets bigified. If you smallify, it gets small. As it should. As it should be. Concept stew. Squish inset. Squish inset. A squished inset reduces space top and bottom, in our case by 50%. While less common than its squared counterpart, a squish, occurred frequently in elements, like a button, and cell-like containers like a data table or list item. So it's like an inset, but it's squished. It's an inset, but it's wider on the sides. It's an inset with love handles. Okay, inset with love handles. That's what I'm gonna call it. Okay, concept 3, stretch inset. Contrast with a button or pills squish. We found ourselves vertically stretching the insets of text boxes, text areas, and other form elements. Stretch inset. So in other words, they have a name for a thing that is padding all around a thing. They have a different name for a thing that is padding all around the thing, but it's wider on the sides. And yet another name for a thing that is padding all around a thing, but it's taller on the top and bottom. Okay. I like it. Concept 4, stack. With all due respect to horizontally scrolled UI, the overwhelming majority scroll vertically. Take that, horizontal UI. And that means one thing. We stack things. We stack messages on header and data table. We stack modules in Rails. We stack copy, pills, and toolbars all in a card. Each in a grid. Heck, infinite scroll means infinite stack. We stack, stack, stack. It's all about the stack. It's all about that stack, bro. So in other words, it's space in between things vertically. Got it. Inline. It's like a stack, sideways. We also arrange objects inline, wrapping as they flow like text from the left or right. Such objects, pills, tags, breadcrumbs, and more, may stand alone or stack and mingle with other objects. Look at that green stuff. Those are spaces. They call them inline spaces because they're spaces that are in line. They don't get out of line, man. They're spaces that are in line. Anyway, concept 6, grid. Save the grid for last. As spacing stabilizes, we find ourselves revisiting grid margins and gutters, aligning these spaces with our magical startling point, our magical starting point, and other uses. So, as applied to a card component, your styled padding and margin may look something like this! Oh man, so many words. Okay. Oh, we can do this. Okay, number 1. It is the card copy. Space inset medium. Margin 0. It's the red thing. Red thing about this thing. Okay. 1, we got some inset space. There's number 1. Card copy space. And then number 2 is the space, this blue space here. It is below the card type. It is space stack small. Okay, and then supernova is this space underneath this thing, which is not including the descenders, interestingly enough. How are they calculating that? How do you calculate the n box of a random text node in a browser thing? Math. Anyway, and more stuff. Okay, whatever. What does this say? Notional application of inset stacks and inlines, or generic spacers. Yeah, onto a card. Why is it for generic spacers? What's wrong with generic spacers? What we learned. Using space concepts requires us to adapt to something new. On my team, it took a day of light skepticism to give way to embracing the new model. Teach a system of space visually. So why didn't you start with this? Most collaborators can't see space. A primary reason, it's so arbitrarily applied. But now we've got a system. A limited number of concepts, each offering a limited range of options. Look at this. Padding around a thing that is these different sizes. Now it's squishy, or squish-id, padding around a thing that is wide on the side. And this is padding around a thing that is tall on the top and bottom. Yeah. Then we got some stack space and inline space, which are the exact same things, but turned sideways, apparently. Let's see. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Yep. And it's double XS, XS, SML, XL. Yeah. A visual reference akin to a cheat sheet. of spatial concepts. Spatial concepts. I'm going to save this image. I'm just going to drag it to my desktop. Can I do that? No. No. Save image as blah, blah, blah. Okay. Spatial concepts .png. Yay, it downloaded it. Okay. Takeaway. Teach your spatial concepts using a light doc diagram or cheat sheet. Such references quicken how we grasp, apply, and sustain the concepts through a design and code. Offer simple helpers and monitor use. Don't be foolish! These 6 models don't solve everything. Psh, come on. I can't believe you thought this would solve everything. World peace. It's padding, man. Man, I wrapped around an inset around the whole government, and then, like, people were still complaining about stuff or whatever. Anyway, these 6 models don't solve everything. We still adjusted a margin bottom here and a left from time to time. So there's justification for following more intentional space options and more generic alternatives, like $SpaceM. Yeah, $SpaceM. Takeaway. Provide generic options, use them sparingly, and expect product teams to use them. When they arise in a critique or pull request, educate teammates on more specific concepts like inset or stack. Avoid variable names with padding or margin. When you introduce something more complicated, others justifiably advocate for something familiar, like, why can't we use padding and margin on our variable names? In this case, 2+ space concepts using padding, and those concepts can be applied via left and right properties too. Margin is used to stack grid and space inline. Plus, how about non-web platforms that don't use HTML? Takeaway. Tease apart concepts from property names. They are many to one and limit reuse to a single platform. So in other words, when you name your stuff, don't name it after the property of the thing that you're going to apply it to. Name it after the concept that it is. So, for example, in the spacing things that I use the name space with a size. And I don't, like, you can apply that space to padding or margin, but it itself is just a space. I like his ideas of using more specific and narrowed down things. So you can have like all the like all your insets here. And don't have to come up with your own things. This is nice. You know, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 10 different ways of applying space around a thing. And they're common and stuff. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You got 12 ways of putting space in between stuff. But it's really only 6 because it's the same thing. Anyway, what were we talking about? Okay. Solve collisions like line height solve collisions like line height systematically. Simple inset padding and stack margin rules collide with a long-known spatial adversary, the line height. This interaction increments space unpredictably. Adding a pixel above and below our simpler inset default of 16 pixels. With line height colliding after line height adjustment mixin. Okay. Oh, so this purple space is bad. Purple space bad, no purple space good. Got it. Basically, it was line height messing with their stuffs. And yes, that's all about the N height, right? Descenders and stuff. Descenders, ascenders. You gotta watch out. You gotta watch out when you're this is a pro tip from me personally. When you're doing these kinds of line height adjustment mix-in stuffs, make sure do not crop. Do not cut out. Do not do overflow hidden on that stuff because it can really, really mess up What is the name of that language? Vietnamese, because Vietnamese has like some extra tall stuff on top of their letters sometimes. Ascenders, that's it. And do they have extra stuff on the bottom too? I forget. But that was a thing at Facebook that we did for Facebook Home. There was like clipping of like the ascenders because we did the line height adjustment mix, that concept. We applied this fix, got rid of our version of the purple space. So be careful. However, we followed an ideas spark. Kevin M. Powell's let's negative margin space using pseudo elements. But how much? What? Okay, so let's add negative margin space using pseudo elements. That's interesting. I gotta look up this quote. Okay, so, however, we followed an ideas spark. This guy said this thing. Sparked an idea. Okay. With some math, I can use my college degree. Yay! That's him, not me. I'm hashtag self-taught. What? The result was a mix-in formula combining type size and line height to collapse space above and below colliding objects. Interesting. I will look that up. Yeah, I'll read that later. Okay. Takeaway. Don't give up on systematic clarity because of exceptions. Try to solve them. If you can overcome such nuances, even with a bit of CSS trickery, you can persist a simpler concept everyone can stick to. So in other words, keep concept simple. If the implementation details make it hard to do the simple concept, don't break the simple concept for the sake of making it easier to build. Fix the bug. It's a bug. It's a software engineering challenge. Don't let your engineers be all like, it's too hard. Like, solve the problem. It's not that hard, right? Keep things simple. If you can keep things conceptually simple with a little bit of more implementation, it is good. For lots of reasons. Use spatial concepts to dial density. Dial density? How long is this article? Anyway, use spatial concepts to dial density. Yo, is this density? Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. Anyway, with concepts like inset, stack, and grid, you can tune the dials of density with aplomb. Man, what is aplomb? Let me Google this word suddenly. Aplomb.
Aplomb.
Aplomb. I said it right. Yay. Self-confidence or assurance, especially when in a demanding situation. Diana passed the test with aplomb. I'm just imagining somebody running up with a plum. With a plum! I'm gonna solve this with a plum! Plum attack! Now I'm gonna look up a plum. You can tune the dials of density with a plum. Sorry. Search a repository. Find insects and insets and and stacks of interest, and extend or override the rules by display density. Okay. Anyway, when you don't hard code all the values into your designs, you can tweak the layout density later. That's awesome. You should do that. Variables are good. On the left, default spacing on the right. Tuning by increasing just the inset by 50%. Takeaway. You can tune spatial density even with a barely beyond primitive set of options. Without them, density control is a dream. Wait. Do you mean that in a good way or a bad way? Without them, density control is just a dream. With them, you can gradually build towards a powerful engine to find, adjust, and tune space with great intent and less risk. Yes, variables. I love it. Okay. About to embark on a design system or need to dive deeper, discuss products and players? 8Shapes. Conduct systems planning workshops and coaches clients on design systems. Let's talk. 8Shapes. Okay, so 8Shapes. This is them. 8Shapes, one color. Design system.